I'm not here to teach you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think. Today we're going to be talking about base philosophies. The idea, what are the principles by which you live your life? Most people consider themselves good people. They have an idea of some of the things they believe in, but most people have never actually been concrete. Those that are concrete about who they are, what they believe in, whether or not other people agree, is irrelevant. It is those people that actually make decisions faster and get things done quicker. They're not going back and forth trying to figure out what they should do in a given situation. They already know who they are because they keep going back to their base philosophies. But one of the things that we're going to focus on is trying to come across what are your particular base philosophies. Now, I've written in my book, I'm a man, that's my job, my personal 10 base philosophies. I have a number of others, but these were the 10 that I thought got me to the point where I could figure everything else out. So if everybody would turn to page 35. And for those of you at home, page 35. I chose my philosophy of violence as my very first one. Not because I necessarily want to influence everybody else to take on that philosophy, but the willingness or the lack of willingness to take an action of violence will factor in very greatly into different things that you're going to decide to do for yourself in your life. Without you copying my own definition, I want everybody right now to write down, and you can write it in the book or on your scrap paper, whatever you prefer. Please write down your philosophy of violence, whatever it may be. Now remember, I don't want you to just follow through what I said. What I said is nothing more than my own philosophy, my own example. But whatever your stance on violence is, make sure you know it. So take about 30 seconds just to write down what your theories on violence are. It doesn't matter if it disagrees with what I think. What matters is you know what it is you believe. Now for those of you at home, as we're going through these exercises, make sure that you're writing them down too. All right, by now you should have at least gotten some of your ideas down. I'm going to relate to you now my theories on violence. I got 3 main rules about violence. Rule number 1, no violence. Rule number 2, no violence. And rule number 3, no violence. Why do I repeat that 3 times? It's to make a point. The minute you choose to get violent, you forfeit your own right to safety. That's my rule number 4. This means that if somebody is acting violently towards you, if somebody's attacking you, they're forfeiting their right to be safe. That's what makes it okay for you to defend yourself. By that same token, if you ever lose control, remember, it's okay to feel angry. You're men. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel aggressive. That's not the part that you're trying to control. You certainly don't suppress it. It'll come back and haunt you in other ways. You must control the behavior. As long as you do not allow your behavior to ever become violent, you're always in a position to take control of the larger situation. You're always in a position to enact your power of influence on others. There are people who will use threats of violence in order to get what they want. Do threats of violence work? Sure. In the right context, a threat of violence is a very powerful thing. However, when you're using a threat of violence to get what you want, you can never let up. You always have to keep threatening violence and keep threatening violence. And eventually, people revolt, whether they simply get away from you or they finally have had enough and fight back. The short term is you might get what you want with a threat of violence. The long term is you always lose. And I'm not about the short term. So if somebody is trying to use a threat of violence on you, always remember, no matter how bad that threat of violence is, the pain and the consequences are only short term if you choose to revolt. All right, everybody got that with violence? Okay, let's go to the next section, page 38. Base philosophy number 2. The philosophy of truth and theories. There's a very good friend of mine who was a mentor of mine. He has a saying. There's 3 sides to every story. My side, your side, and the truth. When it comes to knowing what the truth is, there's a difference between the truth and facts. Facts are indisputable, but truth always comes down to a matter of perspective. Everybody's always seeking truth. I think what they're really trying to say is they're actually seeking facts. Truth is something that is generated by people. It's human-based, and therefore truth is always subjective. It's always based on a perspective. So when someone is telling you the truth, make the distinction between what they're telling you as fact and what they're telling you as a perspective. Facts are indisputable. 1 + 1 = 2. It's a fact. It's indisputable. Whether or not somebody may have been obligated to you to do something, for example, you're on a date with a woman, you feel you're entitled to certain things, she feels she's entitled to certain things. Both of you may label your expectations as truth. The truth is, I expect blank. It's a perspective. How do I apply this to inner game? When a guy is going on this journey and trying to figure out how different theories, how different lessons apply to his life, don't take anything anybody tells you as fact. Simply see it as their truth. Even if it's coming from me. Don't look at me and say, well, whatever Frank B Kermit says is the absolute fact. It's not. It's not fact. It's my truth, my perspective. So when somebody's coming up to you and trying to teach you something because